Pokemon is a franchise that needs no introduction. Beloved by generations, there's so much to uncover. Before there was so much Pokemon out, people would write a whole lot of fan stories, and some of those even turned out to be pretty creepy. So today we will be doing part 2 of the Pokemon Creepypasta Iceberg. For those unaware, this iceberg will have many stories, but as we progress, they will get darker and less known. If you haven't seen part 1, I'll have it linked in the description and somewhere on the screen. Pokemon Fuchsia follows a narrator who is a big video game enthusiast. He receives a purple-red colored game from his friend Anne as a birthday gift. The color was so captivating that it almost led the narrator to crash his car while on his way home. After arriving and putting in the cartridge, the game starts relatively normal, but instead of Professor Oak introducing the world to the character, it is Koga, the Fuchsia gym leader. In this intro, it is said that the player's character is in a romantic relationship with Koga's daughter, Janine, also a future gym leader. The player has very high-level Pokemon, and many of the NPCs are extremely hostile towards them. As the game progresses, we start to learn the truth behind it all. Koga noticed that the Safari Zone in his town was starting to decline in population, and he was worried. Of course, his first idea was to team up with Oak and start to artificially create Pokemon and boost up the population. It was working, and the Safari Zone was running great again without any fears of extinction. However, this power of creating living beings started to run wild, and Koga began making power-hungry and dangerous Pokemon. These new, stronger beings would begin to dominate the original population, leaving Koga as one of the only capable trainers around that could handle it. By the time he acknowledges all of this, the narrator snaps back to reality and realizes that he has been engrossed in the game and has lost 2 weeks of his life playing it. With almost no word from their friend, Anne comes and takes the game away from him. The narrator is full-blown obsessed with the game at this point and won't let that stand. He drives over to her house to retrieve the cartridge back. Once the narrator enters the house, they see Anne unconscious. The game is still going, and this leads to her going to the hospital and eventually dying. After this instance, the narrator is sent to a mental hospital, and while there, they recall the truth of what had happened. They were blacking out and having delusions while gaming, and the Fuchsia game never actually worked, and it was all in his mind. Although he came to understand this, he believes that there is some truth in that game that could uncover what happened to Anne, and to this day they are searching for the cartridge, so if you know where to find it, leave it in the comments. I really like this one. I thought it was a bit unique with the real world aspects overlaying with the game and having some good mystery. Maybe it was a bit over the top, but pretty great for a creepypasta overall. Ghost Marowak follows a player cheating in their Pokemon Blue games to have unlimited Master Balls. Catching everything in sight, the trainer ends up at the Pokemon Tower facing the Ghost Marowak. Like everything else, the trainer captures the usually uncatchable Pokemon and behaves like a standard level 30 Marowak. After leaving the tower, everything seems to appear normal at first, but once entering a new city, things start to get eerie. All the NPCs have disappeared, and as the player travels around, it seems like all living things in Kanto are gone. Even the player's party and PC were cleared out, only leaving the previously caught Marowak. Trying to save the game, the player restarts from an old file, but alas, nothing is fixed. After some time, they go through grass and encounter only Cubones. These Cubones do not attack at all from being scared of the Marowak. The battle ends with both Pokemon fainting and no battle text being displayed. Just a black screen transitions over, displaying an empty Pokemon Tower. Soon the black screen takes over again and the cry of Marowak becomes audible. No resetting or clearing the game seems to fix it, and it is hard stuck in this state. This is a pretty new one for me. I never heard of it, and it turned out pretty alright, ends with some eeriness and pretty decent overall. It Wasn't Lavender Town follows the story of a trainer entering Lavender Town and plays on the Lavender Town syndrome mentioned from part 1. But in this one, the player experiences the music growing louder and more invasive as the game progresses. It causes some physical and mental discomfort to the player. Curiosity makes them continue and dread starts to fill the game. In reality, voices start whispering in their ear and the lines of the game are audible. Reality and the game really start to blur. After reaching the final floor of Pokemon Tower, the player figures out the truth. Music was not the only thing haunting the player, but the tower itself. It is shown that the tower is an entity that feeds off the player's mental state and life source through the game. The game then freezes, but the music continues playing more intensely. It causes the player to enter a comatose state, being completely incapacitated. The story is pretty neat, playing on the good old Lavender Town idea, and maybe it shouldn't be this low on this list. Pokemon Gold Haunting Memories. It follows a player into the Pokemon Gold game. The player begins replaying an old Gold version save, but falls deeply attached to their starter Cynical named Thorn. As the game goes on, the player starts feeling dreadfully aware that their time together is finite, and as the game's red light starts to flicker, they bid farewell to their beloved Pokemon. That night, the player struggles to sleep and feels like somebody or something is watching them. In the corner of the room, they see a flickering red light and hear distorted Pokemon cry. It is the voice of Thorn, who is now Kulava. Thorn expresses the feelings of being left alone but forgives the player. The player talks to the ghostly figure of Thorn and declares that they will be together forever. After some shock, they wake up from what seems to just be a nightmare. Reflecting on what happens to Pokemon deleted save files, it haunts the narrator for life. At the end, they see a reflection of Thorn smiling at them in the mirror before disappearing for good. This is a pretty good story that is original. I chose Cyndaquil too, and wondering what happens to the Pokemon he trained probably has crossed most of our minds before, so I definitely recommend checking this one out. Flash Caves follows a player who wanders into a dark cave without Flash. This would be a huge headache to most, but this story leads to some crazy encounters. In the dark cave, the player finds a ladder that has the animation of going down 4 levels. A text box appears asking, "Who do you think you are?" followed by the music getting distorted in a Pokemon screen. When the screen goes back to normal, the graphics are distorted and everything is black and white. They are in an unknown area that has unsettling walls. These walls begin to display messages like the player's real name and Pokemon. Interacting with these walls is the only way to escape, and it leads to a black and white overworld. From here, the music becomes slower, lower, and sometimes even skips. The player's Pokemon are all replaced with the ghost sprite from Lavender Town, and battles barely work. All the Pokemon are too scared to fight, and the game barely functions. This isn't until they go back to the dark cave and they find a copy of their player character. This time the character is in full color, and once interacted with them it says, "Where do you think you are?" Followed by the game going black and distorted sounds coming out again. The story is pretty creepy and neat. I remember getting stuck in a dark cave in Pokemon Gold and it sucked. I was stuck there for days as a little kid. I think I prefer the stories which are more original and stop relying on already established creepy things like the ghost sprite, but overall, pretty good story. Duskull and Dusclops is set in the Hoenn region for the first time and focuses on Mount Pyre, which is described as a massive grave site for Pokemon. The narrator begins to warn you to avoid a floating skull. Presumably a Duskull making eye contact or noise around it could lead to them hypnotizing and putting you into a long, deep sleep. Once asleep, the Duskull will begin enveloping you with bandage-like wrappings after placing a mask onto you. By the time you wake, if you are not fully wrapped, there is still a chance to escape. You have to pry off the mask and smash it with a rock, or urgently evade the Duskull. However, if you are too late, then the Duskull will use you. It will not kill you, but make you a tool to evolve into a Dusclops. Then you lose all humanity and consciousness. I really like this story. It's pretty scary, creepy, and most important to me, original. I highly recommend this one for you all. Creepy is a 5th generation Pokemon pasta and follows a player in the depths of Relic Castle. Here they encounter a shiny Cofagrigus, and who wouldn't want to catch a shiny? Although the player did notice some oddities with the Pokemon sprite, such as it opening up and sometimes having a different cry, they catch it anyways and name it Creepy. From an old typo, a text bubble then appears saying Creepy is hungry and to feed it a golden nugget. The player refuses and continues in some battles, but the Pokemon who was in their lead position doesn't come out, and a different one does. After completing the battle, the player checked out their party only to see that their Pokemon was completely missing. Thinking it was just an error, the player continues on and Creepy keeps saying it is very hungry now and defeated a golden nugget. Again they refuse, and in this battle a different Pokemon comes out. After a few times of this, it seems like Creepy was making other Pokemon disappear from the party until it was the only one left. Continuing to battle, Creepy starts using aggressive moves like Bind and Crush Grip, which it could not even learn normally. After this, the game shifts into another battle, but this time it was the player's trainer versus Creepy. Here, Creepy admits to eating the entire team and opens itself up to drag the trainer in as well. It ends with a maniacal laugh and it zooms into the Pokemon's red eyes. The player, terrified at this point, throws their DS and tries to restart. They are met with a black screen and the trainer card showing up with their name replaced with Eaten. This honestly might be my favorite one yet. It is creepy, original, and in 5th gen. I like the Pokemon slowly devouring the team, then the trainer, but hey, that is what happens when you don't feed your Pokemon. Abandoned Loneliness follows a narrator receiving a copy of Leaf Green from a friend. Once starting the game, there's a save file in there with a player named Leaf. They are in a room that the narrator had never seen before called Emptiness. Here the player had one Pokemon, an Eevee named Loneliness, but mistyped to not have the E in it. In a strange area, there were some disturbing environments, only having a TV that was spitting out disturbing messages. The narrator starts exploring the world and finds something disturbing. There were some ghost-like NPCs, cryptic messages throughout, and an environment that was always changing. They all shared a common theme of loneliness and abandonment, painting a story of the player's Eevee. Throughout all this, the player starts encountering people like Blue, Red, and Brock, and this is where the real story starts to unfold. The Eevee was abandoned by Blue after his Raticate died and then was neglected by Leaf. All the themes in the story kept pushing this theme of abandonment and the loneliness Eevee felt. Soon it transforms into a Banette named Unwanted and a battle commences. In this battle, the trainer learns that they are connected with the Pokemon intertwined in a curse of neglect. The game ends with the player turning into a ghostly figure and the game resets. Upon booting it up again, the player loads up and has one Pokemon against the Eevee named Loneliness, but this time it was spelled correctly. The story might be the most intricate one and it was pretty good and unique. I like how it didn't really make sense, but it did try to push a story. Also, your friend that gave you the game is an asshole for sure. Definitely read up on it so you get the parts I missed or didn't want to get too detailed on. Forgotten Red follows the narrator finding an abandoned and damaged copy of Pokemon Red by a liquor store. Thinking they struck gold, they quickly put it in and started to play. The new game and options feature were not working, so they were forced to continue the old save. The player's name is Red and they have the same team as Red did in Heart Gold or Soul Silver. This version of Red was obviously hacked, having new areas and even included the Johto region. Inside this region, they encountered the Johto protagonist Gold, but he acted strangely. He was very hostile, challenged the player to battles. In these battles, the player's Pokemon wouldn't just faint, but the game said they were dying. One by one, these Pokemon disappeared, and the trainer's gym badges were being replaced by bloody letters. They spelled out an ominous message, with the last one saying, "Stay away." After the trainer defeats Gold over and over again, they are left with just their Pikachu. Facing Gold one more time, they pull out an impossibly leveled 255 Ho-Oh. This defeats the Pikachu easily and kills it. The game then starts launching a high-pitched scream and the screen flashes red. The story was really similar to some of the first ones of Pokemon dying and some annoying lights, but I'm always thinking, why does it just turn the device off after it started getting weird the first time? Anyways, if you were interested, I did not go deep at all, so there's a lot left. Death Snap follows a narrator bringing out his old copy of Pokemon Snap to relive the glory days. The cartridge was slightly damaged, but it still booted up fine. Things became strange from here though, showing Professor Oak with black eyes and Pokemon without Fuchsia. Throughout the game, Pokemon would not be photographed and would just disappear when the player tried to. A new level also popped up named Hell. Here the player is shown tied up with a bunch of burnt corpses around them of the Pokemon that they previously made disappear. A demonic figure appears and starts to snap photos of the trainer before killing them. This follows with a flashing light in the narrator's room with a demonic voice. Snapping out of the game, the player goes to the photo album and is filled with real and gruesome photos of children being tortured and even worse things. The last photo of the album is a picture of the narrator's dead body and a camera through their head. I really enjoy this one and honestly is a bit scary writing this. If you liked it, check it out. Everything will be linked with the iceberg chart itself. Pokemon Shattered Shield follows a 15-year-old kid named Nico. He recently bought a used microSD card for his Switch and formatted it to clear out anything that may have been on it. After putting it in, he discovered a game called Pokemon Shattered Shield. He thought this was strange that he just formatted it, but whatever, it was a free game. Upon loading it up, things turned dark. The Wooloo broke down and led the trainer into an area called Slum Bearing. From here, the player starts getting attacked by random Pokemon without ever getting one of his own. He sustains injuries and the game starts a chase sequence with a fireball. During this event, the Switch started heating up and hurting Nico's hands a bit. He turned off the game and took a break after this. After hopping back on, he sees the Wooloo gathering metal and creating a shield. A battle then commences and they easily win it, but the Wooloo seems lifeless and drained. The game then loses all music and Nico hears a knock at his door and in the game. Being terrified, he opens the door and there's a package of wool flesh inside. This made him throw up and he became terrified. This definitely takes inspiration from some older stories, but I think it's a good job at telling its own. I left a lot out so you can enjoy it for yourself. I Am Your Gift follows a Pokemon fan who discovered a strange DNS, which allowed him to receive mystery Pokemon in black. You know he is a real fan when they are doing DNS gifts. The narrator begins to receive gifts in the game daily. At first he received an item called Arceus, which worked as a key item, and over time he received different parts of legendary Pokemon. For example, he got Mew's arm and Rayquaza's arm on 2 different days. As the gifts kept coming, things would become scary. He would receive part of Cresselia, then in the real world their dreams would start to become restless. After receiving a piece of Darkrai, their dreams became nightmares. Over time, much of the player's life gets taken by these Pokemon pieces, but a strange obsession pushes him to keep going. The narrator started combining the pieces he received to create an effigy, and once all the pieces were together, it became animate. The effigy thanked the narrator for creating them, and the game then says that the creator is the last part of their entity. This concludes with the creator becoming one of the creation, merging and becoming a surreal entity in the game. This one was pretty unique and it plays on really no other pastas. I definitely skipped out on a lot here so you could enjoy it as well. Pokemon Void also follows an avid Pokemon fan, but this one is more like you. You're drawn into the world of Pokemon Creepypastas. They are in search of rare haunted Pokemon cartridges, leading them to the best place to find haunted things, eBay. The narrator finds a vague boasted Pokemon cartridge and decides to risk it and purchases the game. The game arrives quickly in a damaged box, but surprisingly is just a normal looking Pokemon. The playthrough is mostly standard with just some small bugs that playing a first gen game could explain. This leaves the narrator pretty bummed out as they are trying to find the haunted game. Play continues normally without much to notice until the narrator looks at their hands and sees a bunch of black dots on their thumb. They try to wash these off, but to no avail. Piqued by this, they continue playing until the game shuts down at the 6th gen. Once reset, the game starts displaying a bunch of binary code that strains the narrator to keep going. Entering the Elite Four, the player starts to feel like they are being watched and stop being able to explain what was happening. More strings of numbers would appear, and once finding Laurelise, she uses a hunter instead of a regular team. This reaches an end when the game crashes and spurts out a screeching noise. I think the story started with a good premise, but the execution is not. I was never really scared, and the black dots and binary text were not enough for me to get creeped out. Also, the Ghost Pokemon trope is a little worn out after all these, but hey, I guess it is a Pokemon Pasta. Pokemon Head Taker follows Randall, who is very much like our last protagonist, someone very interested in Pokepasta. He asks his friend Bill to borrow a Pokemon game, and with reluctance he agrees. The reluctance agrees Randall, so he dives into the newly acquired Pokemon Blue game. It starts weird with the game knowing his real name and not allowing him to choose a starter. Instead, he begins with a Banette, which is not even in this generation. Throughout the rest of the game, things just get weirder. Randall's Pokemon do not faint, but they are described as eaten. Later on, he faces a gym leader who is called God. God threatens to kill Randall if he is defeated, which makes him extremely uncomfortable. It leads to him having hallucinations and disturbing dreams regarding the game. It even causes him to have physical wounds on his body that corresponds to his in-game injuries. Being into the pasta, Randall continues the game. This would be the last we hear of Randall, as his last encounter with God resulted in a gruesome death that was reported in a newspaper article. The story was a bit extreme, but I enjoyed it overall. I don't know why this one hit home for me compared to some of the other gruesome ones, but I think the ending touch with the newspaper article reporting his death was a good cherry on top. Dreamworld follows Hilbert, who is in the Pokemon world. He has recurring dreams where Pikachu is decaying and he senses their impending doom. This fear leads him to find Fennel, scientists in Striaton City, who research dreams. Together, they devise a plan to have Hilbert enter the dream world and see what is going on. In this world, Hilbert finds a Pikachu where it gives him a warning. There's an evil entity up ahead and points to a yard where experiments were held. Curiosity gets to Hilbert and he starts investigating the lab that Fennel once worked at. Here there are over 30 logs that describe the horrific experiments that took place. This includes Pokemon being transformed and countless breakdowns from the scientists themselves, such as Fennel. As the logs continue, it becomes clear that the dream mist that this world creates causes people to go mad and the true nature of Fennel and other scientists. Fennel becomes keen to Hilbert figuring this out and injects him with a high dose of dream mist to keep him trapped in the world indefinitely. The story concludes with a fresh face named Nate visiting Fennel 2 years down the line, where he sees him married to an almost lobotomized version of Hilbert. The story has a bunch more details and there are so many logs in the story. I definitely recommend it. It clears a top 5 for these pastas for me, and the idea is pretty interesting. I'm surprised more stories don't go into the Gym world that was set up in Gen 5. Pron Yellow follows a Pokemon manga fan who is particularly into the Yellow saga. Due to this, they try to find the series in the wild, but to no avail. Now relying on the internet, they find a strange listing of the manga and a copy of the Pokemon Yellow game together for low. Although there were some red flags, the great price led them to buy anyway. After a few days, the package arrives with some strange things going on. The manga is faded and the game has a scribble that says, "Don't forget me." It just makes the narrator more curious and they dive into the game. In this game, they encounter Yellow, who complains about being forgotten and not playable like Red. After this, they begin a battle where Yellow's Pokemon seem weak and neglected. The dialogue gets more intense with Yellow's abandonment by the hands of Game. The player starts to physically feel telekinetic force from the game, and soon they are being physically attacked. Yellow starts yelling about how they could forget him, as the narrator succumbs to injuries and a haunting of Yellow's loneliness. The Yellow angle is pretty neat here, but I think the story is a bit over the top. It didn't do much for me. Sombreon is a story that follows an old playground rumor. Two friends of Pokemon were talking and they found out about a beta version of Pokemon Gold where the rumor stated that there were 2 unreleased evolutions. They were Poison and Ghost type. After some hard work, the pair found a working version of the game they began to play. From the initial playthrough, nothing strikes them as particular, besides some common beta things like unfinished areas and missing tech. They try to evolve their Eevee into those different types, but they find little success. Growing frustrated, the game starts getting a fake talking zone and they try to use it on Heat, but it's another fail. Increasingly losing hope, they start going around and start talking to all the NPCs when something finally clicked. One of them mentioned that some Pokemon evolve only after they faint, so they knock out the Eevee and try the Toxic Stone once more, giving it a new creation, Zombreon. They also gained a new move called Zombie Bite. The evolution seemed a bit underwhelming, so they began to test out the move. It appeared to turn wild Pokemon to a zombie state, and they would join their party. Pushing this to the next level, they tried on trainers Pokemon and it caused them to disappear. After some time, the world became almost completely zombified. The player then receives a call from Professor Elm who says he has a cure. Here they begin an unwilling battle, where before Elm moves, he takes his own life. The world has become zombified, and then reality sinks in when they visit their mother, where she laid motionless. This is the first story using Eevee, and I like the beta aspect of it as well. Pretty good overall. Maybe not the scariest, but when I was a kid, I think I definitely would have believed it. Pokémon Go Expedition is the first and only Pokémon Go story on this whole iceberg. Like most of us, it follows someone's friend who is an avid fan of the app. One night, they received a notification that a Pokemon was nearby, but it only displayed a dark silhouette that they couldn't identify. After following the GPS, he ends up in a park where he encounters a ghostly male trainer sitting on a swing who quickly approaches him. Being terrified, they book it back to their house and lock themselves in. The feeling of safety only lasts so long as the app tells him that the Pokemon is nearby again. He then runs to his room and locks everything hiding underneath the blankets. Here he peeks at the app one more time where it says that the trainer is in the same room as him. Lifting up the blankets to check, he sees the trainer's grotesque body and runs away once more to a friend's house. People finding dead bodies was a regular occurrence when Pokemon Go was at its peak. Honestly, the story might have been the most believable one yet. Reading at 1 AM got me pretty good, not gonna lie. First on to the last level, we begin with Doomed Black. We follow a collector of hacked Pokemon games and he wants to explore the world a bit before playing the new Pokemon White. On a flea market trip with his friend, they find an eccentric vendor who gives them a worn out copy of Pokemon Gold. After getting home, the playthrough commences and things start ominously. The title screen is dark and missing Ho-Oh. There's also a save file already with the trainer having exactly 10 Pokeballs and 2 Pokemon. A Totodile and a ghost Pokemon named Ghost, like in the previously mentioned story Curse Black. Just like in that story, Ghost uses a curse which kills Pokemon it faces. They go through the journey of Ghost evolving into Phantom and Spirit, but still killing everything in sight. This all leads to the final battle against Red, where the collector sees an older version of his trainer surrounded by all the death and destruction they caused through their journey. Here Red steals the ghost Pokemon and the collector begins a new battle. Here their only option is to struggle and suffer the same fate as all of Ghost's victims. The game then fades to a black screen. Honestly, this is the best take of any of the Ghost stories so far, but damn, they really are still using the Ghost trope to slow down. Pretty good story, and with no real damage done to the main character, probably taught them a good lesson. Missingno Murders is surprisingly the first Missingno story which follows a narrator and their brother. They were big Pokemon fans, they wanted to catch them all. For those unaware, the only real way to do this back then was with glitches. So they resorted to the old Missingno glitch at Cinnabar Island. After messing with Missingno in Pokemon Stadium, they transfer it back and forth and begin a link battle. Their brother's Machop attacks the Missingno, but suddenly the Machop faints and is described to oddly transform into Lugia before leaving. This seems strange, so they quickly finished the battle and checked out the Machop, but it was nowhere to be found and it disappeared completely. As time passes, the brothers playing again at Lavender Town, they see a new NPC. When interacting with them, they say that they are mourning the death of a Machop. Later on, they use the Missingno on an NPC's Growlithe, and a similar glitch occurs at Lavender Tower where they find another mourning NPC. Scared that this is how the games were truly meant to be played, the brothers call it quits. They delete their save files and try to remove all these murders done by Missingno. Drawing in the famous Missingno was awesome to read for the first time, but this story did not add much or do anything unique from the previous entries. I did not mention a lot of the story, so I encourage you to make your own opinion on it. Lavender Test is a story that is told from 2 different perspectives. First, we have a Pokemon trainer who is ecstatic after winning the gym badge of his favorite Pokemon, Poliwag, or nicknamed Whirly. To celebrate, the trainer and Whirly go to have a nice dinner. By the time the meal was over, it was too late to go home, so they stayed in a conveniently placed hotel inside the restaurant. After such a great day, the trainer wakes to find themselves in a strange empty room that has a purple hue emitting. The trainer hears people screaming around them and notices that they have the number 1 engraved to their skin over and over again. Although anxiety and terror are rampant, the trainer is solely worried about Whirly and wondering where they ended up. As time progresses, the trainer starts to hear music that makes them slowly go in and out of reality. Later on, the trainer snaps back to reality when a mysterious figure comes in and throws Whirly to them. Being so malnourished, the trainer can't muster the words, but they hold Whirly tightly and rejoice. This part ends with the music growing louder in his ears. For the other side of the story, it follows logs for a clinical experiment named Lavender Test. These logs document the experiment the trainer just went through with the real intents of what they were attempting to do. I don't want to spoil this one because I think it actually has a good twist and I enjoyed it. Honestly, definitely my favorite so far. My First Pikachu follows a narrator who is very into video games but never got to experience the original Pokemon ones. One day he stumbled upon a cheap version of what appears to be Pokemon Yellow, but this one was labeled Pika Yellow version. The game plays pretty normally with the trainer getting a Pikachu named Tesla, but of course after a while the game gets a bit darker and the Pikachu starts disobeying the trainer's commands and even attacks friendly Pokemon. Being confused by the occurrence, the narrator stops playing and tries to find answers. They resort to some forms online, but these all just lead to them getting bullied for making up such a weird story. With no help, they email a Game Freak rep to try to learn more. That communication is cut short and soon thereafter the narrator would hear a knock on their door. It was the police to retrieve the stolen goods. They claim that the game is part of an ongoing investigation and it was stolen weeks prior. The story ends years in the future with the narrator scrolling eBay for video games where he sees a cartridge. This time it was labeled My First Pikachu. I've never heard of this story before, so maybe that is why it's so low on the list, but I definitely did not think it was creepy enough to be here. Pocket Monsters Alpha starts by recounting the origins of the original Pokemon games. It then goes to a Pokemon fan who had received a mystery box containing all sorts of Pokemon content. In the box they found a copy of Pokemon Green with a note attached to it. They claimed that this was an alpha version of the game, so check it out. The game starts off strange as after the player put in their trainer's name, the game froze, and after a few seconds it would display a text box that said, "My head hurts." Then it loaded into the bedroom. The bedroom even appeared different. It was no longer just a normal house, but it was a giant mansion. Downstairs, the player was unable to interact with most NPCs except their dad. The dad told him to go get a Pokemon for Professor Oak, so it was time to go do that. Upon leaving the house, a black screen appeared with a question. "You want to see it?" Without thinking, the player got transported to Mount Moon where a strange pedestal was. After interacting with the pedestal, battle commenced and the player threw out Kingdra, a Pokemon that they did not even think they had or even existed in Gen 1. The strangest part was that they were not even facing a Pokemon but a humanoid figure. Becoming quite creeped out at this point, the trainer just wanted to run away, but the attack and run options were all gone. After some moments, the humanoid figure begins to talk to the player, not through text, but an actual voice through the Game Boy. It identifies itself as Mr. Hayashi, the creator of Pokemon. And they start talking about all the health problems and mental damage that the Game Freak had caused them for working so brutally on the game. The screen then flashes to a bunch of disturbing images with glitched music until it resets itself to a normal version of Pokemon Green. The story is pretty cool and unique. It is an easy read and I think just some of the scary factors missing, but overall it gets a board approval. For the last entry in the pasta, we have Drifloon's Trap. It starts with a little song. There, close to the edge of town, a purple ball does not flow around. Shiny, big, and funny too, as if placed right there, just for you. If you are good, then don't dare stay. Else grab its string and fly away. Where you go, no one will know. Maybe in sand, maybe in snow. You'll never get the chance to leave, but be sure your family will grieve. You may be battered, cut and bruised, and struggling is no use. The greeting ones don't care to look at the one holding the hook. They take the bait, and that is that. They fall for Drifloon's clever trap. The narrator claims that this song isn't just something they sing, but a cautionary tale. To prove the point, they go on to tell us a story that they claim is true and leads us to the main part of the pasta. It follows a young trainer who enters an ominous town. Here he learns that he is the first trainer to visit the town in years, and here the villagers are a bit off-putting. After a night there, he finally asks them what is going on and they tell him the truth. One of the villagers' children went missing a few years back, but they had no Pokemon to try to fight for him. They plead with the trainer to visit a cave in the corner of the village to try and rescue their children. The trainer with some of the villagers go to the cave and discover some pretty terrifying stuff. A few Drifloon were lurking in the cave and there were lots of crying and screaming. After a dark adventure, they find the kids malnourished but alive. Together they beat the Drifloon and bring the children back home. A bit underwhelming on the scary part for the last entry of the list, but I did skip out a lot of it, so if you are into the creepy balloon Pokemon and something based from lore in the game, check it out. I appreciate all of you that watched this entire video. It's the longest video I ever worked on, and if you missed part 1, I'll leave it here in the description. Anyways, if you liked, you know what to do. Peace out and adios.